ahead and get started. We've got a busy list. Unfortunately, Mr. Braden is sick tonight. I want to start with Xavier University, and I know we have some people who wanted to speak, and so I'm going to let you guys speak first. Actually, I'm going to shut this door because it's loud. And then I'll share what we're working on, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to share some of your frustrations that you've been having. So if you want to just do it. Show and tell.
Yes. So I thought I'd bring a prop today. It's a good example of what residents are dealing with on every weekend this is happening. This weekend, though, was a little special for me because it was my stepson's wedding. So I had a lot of guests from out of state. We go right down Clenny to go down to Ellesmere. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. It was offensive banners hanging. Some of them said something like, "Your dad can park his car in my garage." I did find out from Molly Dugan that she had asked that some of them were so offensive that they be removed. I think I counted 6 of the big white sheets hanging on the houses. So I guess this is twofold for me. I do believe there's an ordinance that states you can't do that. So why are we allowing this to happen? In addition to that, some of the houses have cute little names that they give them. And I don't understand why we're not stopping that also. We have signage.
I'm sorry, what do you mean cute names?
What are some of the
Alamo?
The Alamo
and the little signs.
Yeah, they're speakeasy.
Okay.
But what that is doing is it's encouraging them to have parties and have fun names. Oh, let's go to the Alamo and party tonight. Those are homes, and these students have taken over city blocks. It's not just Clenny, it's also Regent Spencer. It's out of control. I was horrified this weekend when I saw kids urinating, vomiting, solo cups, those big beer pong tables in half a dozen yards. I even went there today. I went there yesterday and then again today. They were still up. They haven't cleaned up after these parties. I can assure you that if I had a big bash at my home and I didn't clean up by that evening or the next morning, my neighbors would be raising hell. It's not okay. I earlier said they're guests in our community, but I think that maybe, Susan, you're right. They aren't just guests. They are members of our community while they live in the city of Norwood. They've also destroyed Wasson Way. It's known by Xavier University that they're trashing the trees. I believe we have 11 that have been completely destroyed. Recently, they caught 3 kids who've been doing it. They go from Dana Gardens, cut through, and they live down on Spencer. Just the other day, this weekend, Alicia Locke and myself raised a lot of money for these. These are about $300 a piece, and those were torn off, and they're so people can pick up after their pets. Their disrespectful behavior has been tolerated by neighbors, but I don't know why we are. This needs to stop, and it's serious. Something else that maybe we should just put a spin on. I know for a fact that they're underage drinking. It's just a matter of time somebody gets hurt or killed. I mean, it's not being monitored. The city isn't doing anything to stop this. I don't understand why Norwood police can't stay on top of this. Let's start giving citation to these vandals. They are underage drinking, they're partying, they're destroying our community that we've worked so hard to improve. This administration has done such a fabulous job of turning the corner. We're revitalizing Montgomery Road. We have, the station, was it Xavier Station? Today, there was a banner hanging from that with a skeleton with a booze bottle in it. This is all unacceptable. We wouldn't allow residents to behave this way. Why are we allowing the kids to get away with this? So after I spoke with Molly Dugan today, she encouraged me to have the police start giving citations. She said, I don't know what they're waiting for. It's off campus. Our hands are basically tied. We're not really sure what to do about this. We've tried, let's involve the Xavier students. I don't know where that's gone. I haven't seen any changes. I actually see the problem getting worse every single weekend. Conclusion, I'm requesting that these students be better guests in our community. I don't understand why we aren't doing anything. Finally, I'm requesting that Norwood Police give citations. You can tell these kids are 18 years old. Start nailing them with underage drinking. Once it gets out, once half a dozen kids have been cited, they have to come to court and pay a fine, word will get out. They'll tell all their friends it's not worth doing it. They also walk around. Last time I checked, we're having a hard time getting a door in the city of Norwood. Those kids are walking up and down Clenny with open intoxicants. Let's do something about it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
I mean, Jeannie said it perfectly. So living on Regent, it is definitely loud. We're cleaning up trash out of our yards from people who don't clean up trash. The red cups fly all over the city. We're dealing with people stumbling down the street, open containers, walking in the middle of the street, just, being loud and obnoxious and things that normal neighbors wouldn't do. So, it's just more of a, be respectful. Like, we all like to have a good time. I'm not discounting that. It's just be respectful of your neighbors. Like, don't have a speaker on your front lawn that everyone in the neighborhood can hear. Like, don't be in the front yard cussing and, playing beer games while families are biking up and down the street. I mean, it's just basic neighbor behavior. So, like I said, Jeannie said it the best, but it'd just be nice to hold people accountable because it's frustrating to see, like, just, oh, we're just not going to do anything about it. But there's obviously violations there, so.
Thank you.
I did forget to mention something. Molly mentioned to me that in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a battle of the banners for the alumni. So every house in that, on Plenty, Regent, everybody, the idea is that you compete with each other for the best banner. Those aren't allowed. There's an ordinance stating you can't have them. So I did call her today and I let her know she needs to put a kibosh on that idea.
It's trashy.
What interactions have you guys had with the students when approaching them? Do you have any?
Actually, so we've had some decent, so our neighbors on the other side have been very respectful. Like, they're very nice to our son. We had one on the other side that's a babysitter. Like, they've been nice, but, and they clean up. So we've just been really lucky. And I think Tim has gone down the street and asked people to turn down their music. And it's been received on sometimes with, kind of a snarky attitude, and they turn it down and then it turns back up. And then other times it was, and turned it down right away and it never came back up. So it's been mixed reactions, but it's like no one ever seems to learn. Like I said, our immediate neighbors are fantastic. They've been great, and it's like, it's not everybody. I feel like it's
the same 6 to 8 houses.
Yeah, it is, and it's like the partiers that there's no consequence to what you're doing. So, like I said, and those are the ones that give attitude when you're like, can you pick that up? Can you turn it down? Like, and it's like over and over again. They might do it that day, but then.
Molly Dugan stated today, she said, I don't know how they do it. The owners of the 6 to 8 houses we're talking about, she said they consistently get the worst students in there every single year. And she's very aware it's the same houses that have this, that does this. You're asking about incidents. I had an incident last summer at about 1 o'clock in the morning. There was a bang on our door, and we have a screened-in porch. And I went down with Steve. I'm like, oh my God, somebody's trying to break into our house. It was a Xavier kid who was so drunk he thought he lived there. He lived on Spencer. I mean, that's unbelievable.
So I have some things that I would just like to bring to your attention. There are the beer pong tables when you go down Clenny, when you go down Hudson, when you go down some of the other streets in that area. Why is it council hasn't passed an ordinance that says no tables in the front or side yard? Why is there a need for these students, many of them, maybe even most, are underage, they're making a lot of noise day and night. Then what do? They leave their beer pong tables. They leave them out as adornment to kind of some type of badge of honor. And not only the table, but the red Solo cups, the beer cans. Is that right? Does it look nice? Do you think that helps our property value? No. What does that say to them? We can trash Norwood. What did I see last weekend? It was Parents' Weekend. Parents walking along, broad daylight, with the beer. And that's fine if they go back and they quietly drink it. But, we have had problems with noise. I don't know if there are issues right now. You live closer. But these are things that need to happen. What can happen with the trash can, with the beer bottles, certain cans, and the Solo cups? The students who live there can be cited. The owners of the property can be cited. They can also be cited for the signs. As far as the signs go, the signs can say whatever they want. They can have bad language. They can park wherever they want. They can do whatever they want in the signs because we cannot regulate speech. If we do, then we're going to be not charged, but face a lawsuit, and we would lose. So the content, unfortunately, they can say your daddy can park his car or his whatever in my whatever, and that's fine. It's legal, but the signs themselves, the size of them. You look in the sign. We do have a sign ordinance, and it does regulate size of signs, and that's legal. Why is our building department not doing that? If you don't know, why don't you ask the building department to give you a regular report at the council meetings, at least on a quarterly basis? I would love to hear on a quarterly basis from the Norwood Police Department how many kids were cited for underage drinking. You can't tell me it's not happening. I used to be law director in Norwood from 2000 to the end of 2003, and on a regular basis there would be kids coming in for underage drinking, for noise violation, for disorderly house complaints. We don't see that anymore. Why is that? If you don't know, please ask Chief Kramer to come in at least on a quarterly basis and give you a report. You mean, Chief Kramer, there aren't any kids under 21 drinking in Norwood? That's great. You mean there aren't any noise violations? Oh, then people like Kate Wetzel, she must be nuts. She must be making it up because, they're not citing anybody. And I guess the cans and the bottles must be a figment of my imagination, right? Why is it the police? They can see it just as plain as day as I can. Why are they not fulfilling their sworn responsibility to us? We're taxpayers. They might not live here. That's their business. They don't have to live here. But while they're in uniform, while they're driving around in their car, or while they have a car available to go drive, go every weekend. Tell us what you are seeing. Why is it that I can go on a Saturday morning and see trash everywhere and the police haven't cited the owner? I want to know that as a resident. I'm asking you as council members to put their feet to the fire. The fire department, the police department, the building department, and the health department. And you know what? We as residents, even though you guys are friends and I like you, I am going to hold your feet to the fire. I am going to make sure that you are asking them to come in And if you don't ask them to come in and give you a report, you can hear about it. Because we, as residents, are owed a duty, we are entitled to live in a place that's just as nice as mommy and daddy who come in from Grosse Pointe or Hilliard or all these fancy schmancy places all over the country. They wouldn't put up, mommy and daddy wouldn't put up with that. And do I care? Do I care if a kid who's over the age of 18 gets charged with something? No, they're an adult. They need to follow adult laws. They need to act like adults. And when they don't act like adults, they need to be accountable to the city of Norwood for their behavior. So those are the things that I'm asking.
Well, let me give you some answers, because I
okay.
have a lot of
Thanks.
information to give you.
Okay,
Thank you
great.
very much for coming. And I can say that I share a lot of your frustration and a lot of your anger. In the last few weeks, the partying has gone up a few notches. And I have had numerous conversations with Chief Kramer. This is something that Candace and I have been working on for
2 years?
yeah, years. So what's interesting, I think in some ways, it's a bit of whack-a-mole. In some ways, it's a little bit of, we kind of keep circling around and we're kind of finding where the challenges are. First, I want to talk about the party this weekend. So it was family weekend. I was driving down Clinty and I saw the offensive signs. So I made 2 calls. One was to the building department, Larry Brinkmeyer, and he's like, yeah, I already heard about it, I'm on it. So I noticed that when I came back several hours later, they were still up. So I followed up with him on Monday, and what I found out was they had gone and knocked on 4 doors. And I believe that they were the 4 doors that they saw the signs up. Because again, the signs are illegal in the city of Norwood, regardless of what they say. The size is not allowed. And
Can I say one thing? It's also that they're written in spray paint. It's also the materials used.
yeah, so they're not allowed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they say, they're not allowed. And so 2 of the homes where people he contacted, they took them down. 2 of the homes, there was no one present, so they did not. He called the property owner and did not hear back. So what happened was, after he left, the signs went back up. So 2 things. One, Larry did his job to a certain degree, right? He did go out and he did have the signs taken down. The fact that they went back up is a problem. The second call I made was to Molly Dugan. For those at home, Molly Dugan is the Dean of Student Integrity at Xavier, because Xavier is a Jesuit university and they do have a code of conduct. Xavier does have some power in terms of what is written on the sign. And she was not pleased, and she did go and have some conversations. So what we need to figure out is, and I had a conversation with Noah earlier today, because this happens every year. So we need to have a plan in place for next year and how we want to handle this. My understanding is that, and Noah's going to look into this, that the building department can cite. He needs to find out if the police can also cite.
They can. We've
Oh.
been through this with different things.
Okay, well, I will find out, but Noah was going to look into that. Because if the building department on Friday has all the signs taken down, and then Saturday morning they go back up, the building department can't do anything about that until Monday morning, and it's too late, and then the wedding is, So that's something we need to look into. I think it's helpful to know that there's the battle of the...
Alumni, it's the battle, it's
And do we know
alumni
the
party.
date? Do we know the date?
It's in the very near future, and she said, oh yeah, that's good to know that, because we do a battle of the banners.
Because we can nip that in the bud immediately, because we can let them know ahead of time, preemptively, that will not be allowed. So that's the piece about the banners, and I think that we can talk about next year, and also for the Battle of the Alumni, if we want to do like a door hanger, or like, this is your warning, and if you do have a banner up, that there's a citation and not this chance thing. In terms of the tables, that is something that we have gone around and around about, because there is legislation in terms of allowing people the freedom to do in their front yard what they see fit. And if, say, Candace wants to have a tea party in her front yard or a tie-dye event in her front yard, she should be allowed to do that. And why is that allowed, but the beer pong isn't, right? So,
It's the table
what,
thing. You can have a party, you can gather.
well, but she wants to have a table for her tie-dyeing. So one of the things that I was gonna recommend or suggest is that we reach out to the landlords, and because the landlords, I think, are also unhappy with the tables in the front. Some of them have reached out, is to ask them to put it in their
Backyard.
lease,
Oh, yeah.
put it in the lease.
The guys next door can't have one.
Well,
So
yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So if it's in the lease, then the city doesn't have to worry about legislating it, and then it's on the landlord, and then everybody's happy. So that's something that we're gonna be looking into.
What about the furniture in the front yard? I'm fairly certain we would say that that's not okay. The couches.
Upholstered furniture is not allowed.
Yeah, it's in the front yards.
So that would be a C-click fix, and that would go to the Department of Health, who would be Jim Shelby.
Okay.
And my understanding in terms of the litter, the beer cans, the police do not ticket for that.
They're allowed. They're permitted to. We researched it last year.
That was not my understanding.
Yep.
What was,
We'll see Click Fix, it goes to Jim Shelby, but I think it's something that should come up with the new ordinance with reoccurring offenses. Because the timeline of when Jim gets notified from, you send it to See Click Fix, then Norcom has to distribute it, and then Jim gets it maybe, and then 3 days later, he goes and he checks and it's cleaned up. And so there's a timeline there of him being able to cite. And so we really want to start utilizing these repeat offenders. And if the police know this is a repeat offender, I'm gonna cite. So that's going on with the trash, which that's a whole other issue. But I mean, two huge frustrations is we've been working on this for a long time. Were there any citations this weekend?
so that's the other thing. I have,
Because we've
There's-
communicated this with chief
Yeah.
of second time you cite. Whatever the offense is, we want these students cited.
right, so I have put in a request, and I've not received it yet, I think I put it into the wrong individual. I should have put it into Thomas, and I put it into Sumner, so I think that was on my mistake. I'm gonna start every Monday getting a request of all the police runs. Another thing that we discovered was years ago, by protocol, whenever Norwood did a police run to a Xavier event, that the Norwood, doing it backwards. Whenever Norwood was called to a Xavier event, that they also called Xavier. Xavier can't respond unless they are specifically called. That's the way that works. And so
But Xavier can't do anything.
Xavier can get their names. So Xavier will get their names,
Yeah,
and that will go to the dean of students.
But we know they don't do anything. I'm frustrated with them too as well.
Okay.
They're not, you know what I mean? Like, what has Xavier done?
Well,
These
partly
things
when
happen every single year, and they've been happening for years and years and years, and they're like,
but the
"Oh."
last 2 years, Xavier hasn't been called.
But like, they can't cite this, you know what I mean? Like, it's past that point. It's,
Okay.
you know, it's just past that point. And I think we really need to, and we've been talking to the chief, and I really think we need to continue that of like, every month, I want to see you at the end of the month, and I want to know how many underage citations we have. Or do you want us sitting out there and just calling nonstop? I mean, I did that on the porch, and it was ridiculous. You know, it's past the point. This has been going on for so long. And
I think-
Xavier, I just don't, you know what I mean? Like it's,
Well, I think it can be both, and
Yeah.
I think that we
I think it can be too, but it's like, let's start,
Because I think that it could be that the police say that they don't want to do a citation for whatever reason, and we can maybe push them to do that. But the Xavier officer, my understanding is the Xavier officer will always get their name. I don't think the Norwood officer always gets the name. If they say, pour it out, they're not always getting their name. Xavier will, and then that goes up to the
to
dean.
the dean.
And at
But they
least there's,
can't, they don't share that info with us.
correct.
Yeah.
But Norwood could get the name if they choose.
I think that should be something to push.
Something Molly Dugan was talking about, I said, do you know which students live at which address? She said it's a very gray area. And I said, well, how could we rectify that? Because Xavier should know, as well as the city of Norwood. So could we approach landlords? We would like a list of the tenants in each of the properties. Is that legal?
I'm not
I
sure.
have no idea.
I think we'd have to, I don't know.
No?
Because I think you could do it to every, yeah, you know, I don't think we can do it to
Okay.
stuff, yeah.
It would just be nice if there was some way to track the repeated offenders.
I think the simplest solution to that would be the police getting their names. It seems like that's like the simplest.
Well, when you hand out a citation, you'll have their driver's license,
Yeah.
knowing they're underage
Yeah.
and everything, and.
Citations seem like the
Yeah,
simplest
I
solution to
think-
most of these issues, in my opinion.
Could I ask a question? So is it an issue that our police department is choosing not, they drive by down Clenny back and forth, they see the garbage?
I don't think they're driving back and forth.
You don't think they drive down Clenny? Ever? I mean, they go down Clenny. They go down Clenny, but they have to see the garbage, they have to see the trash.
They're not looking for trash.
Well, they have eyes.
But they aren't looking at students either.
If they go down the street, they will see that there's garbage, and they should be able to stop, find out who lives there, and cite the people who live there. And if the police department choose not to, why do we pass tax levies in this city? I mean, seriously, if one of the reasons that we are thrilled to live here in Norwood, which I am, is because we have what I think is a very good police and fire department, if they're selectively not doing their job because they just don't want to do it, they don't want to have to get out of their car, why am I filling in that little place for a tax levy that says, yes, I want to pay my money?
I'm happy to ask
I don't get it.
again.
I just don't get it.
My recollection is from our meeting that the police do not cite for garbage. That's my
But they
recollection.
can. They're able to. They have that power.
I feel like the answer was no.
Do we know how the health department cites for garbage, or cites for like litter in yards? Do they have someone who goes out and does that?
Well, it's Jim Shelby, but he
Yeah.
does it by see-click-fix. So if we aren't see-click-fixing, he does not go seeking it.
So for the time being, we should be, like, if we see it, record it, and even if it's cleaned up afterwards, at least there's some sort of, like, picture evidence is what we're like.
Maybe that's the, yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
that's.
like, I mean, in the meantime, while
Yeah.
we sort this, like, gray area of who is responsible for what ticketing, I mean, honestly, the trash is terrible, but it's like, let's start with the walking down the middle of the street with an open, not even trying to hide it fear. I mean, like, hey, at least try to be sneaky. Like, I don't know, like, at least try.
Yeah, so right now, the only way Mr. Shelby does the trash is if it's a see-click-fix. And what he does is he goes and he knocks on the door, and he's like, hey, there's garbage, pick it up. If they pick it up, then he does not cite them.
Would it be worth it to get the health department and building department a list from Molly of when the big weekends are for parties? And then maybe we could have people prepared to cite quickly, or more quickly?
So I know with the police, there are, like, you can list those high priority areas, like if you're concerned, and then they'll make sure that the officers are in that area more than not. But yeah, I mean, if you want to target the,
Maybe we could do like a citywide coordination is my thought, because it's not like it's a surprise. Like we know when Parents Weekend is, we know when the big basketball games are. And we know their calendar, I'll say,
Yeah.
for when they're gonna do things like this. So maybe if we told the health department and, the police and everyone to be, prepared to maybe work some not so great hours those Fridays and Mondays. And make it a priority, or request that they make it a priority and coordinate a little. I don't know, maybe that's part of the issue.
I did
Is that it's
also
Saturday and
call-
Sunday nights, I'm assuming, is when it's worse?
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday. And sometimes in the middle of the week, you never know. It's just like a random.
Thirsty Thursday.
The other thing I did want to share is that we do have the Xavier Ambassador coming online. She's been hired. I'm meeting her, I think the 11th. The Xavier Ambassador is a position that was created out of these conversations about trying to improve the relationships. One of the things, we're trying to do the soft, relationship, be our neighbor. Okay, well, that maybe worked a little bit, maybe it didn't work at all. Maybe it worked for some kids and not others. She is not going to be at all a policing person, but that will be an additional relationship
I mean, her
that we'll be
role,
having.
like kind of when we initially talked about it, was to really brainstorm with us to develop concrete ways that happen annually to really connect with the students, have neighbors and students connect. So that's what I was hoping from that position, where she is on the student ground, can be
Yeah.
like, hey, these things can work, and we can work together on that.
So we've got a bunch of other things we need to talk about, and I'm aware, so, no, don't be, no.
Thank you for your
So
time.
we need to circle back quickly. So, and of course, my laptop just died, because I've been here all day without a charger, like a dummy. I will get your answers about the police, about the battle of the alumni. We're gonna have a conversation about the tables. I'm very sorry about the doggy thing, because I know that those are expensive, because I priced them out. I'm also just gonna encourage people to call the police, and leave your name and number, and you can always ask for the police to call you back. I think that that's important. I think that people tend to not want to do that, but that's, I think, what we need to, we need to start doing, that we aren't anonymous, we are neighbors, that this is not acceptable, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes,
This is
and
a-
again, I'm sorry, this is
I-
not,
It's not, I mean, it's,
yeah.
you don't need to be sorry.
Well, I am sorry. I'm sorry that it's happening to all of us. Okay, real quick, the other things on the agenda. The housing affordability. Melissa, my intern, and I wanted to have sort of an informational panel discussion about affordability. It sounds like a lot of people just don't, myself including, us included. What is affordability? People say, well, why can't we make Quality Inn affordable housing? Why can't we make Allison Elementary affordable housing? Because they don't meet the criteria. They don't score right. So wanted to have some people from like Urban Sites and the Model Group, and a gentleman, Ben, from Lydia's House, and maybe also Pemrose, come and do like a panel at one of our housing meetings, and wanted to see if you guys had any other people who work in the affordability realm who might be appropriate to be part of the discussion.
Maybe home, but they're more policy based, so I don't know how up to date they are on local affordability, but I could reach out if you want.
Okay,
I think that's great.
I say that's a lot of people, so,
okay.
yeah.
And my thought was sort of like when we did the charter meeting, like having them here
Yeah.
and us here, and they can kind of tell us a little bit, we can ask a bunch of questions
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
okay.
I like that.
All right, then the next thing, what else was on the?
Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
Oh, Habitat for Humanity, okay.
Sorry, I
Habitat for Humanity is in Norwood,
Yeah.
like, And we have never had, I think, a Habitat home here.
Yeah.
So Melissa has reached out, we're gonna be scheduling a meeting with them to see about how we can go about beginning a relationship with them, to see if that's a thing that we can do. I think that would be super awesome. That hasn't happened yet, so I was hoping that that would happen.
My laptop is also about to
That's,
die.
all right, oh, we're awesome.
I got
Okay.
you.
And
I'm gonna have to
then,
charge.
Okay, future planning. We'll push that for another time, but real quick, I got, Melissa has been working on the homestead exemption.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, homestead exemption holds, is for people with very, very low income. And she created a flyer, which I can share, that we can get out to people to make sure enough of our residents are taking advantage of that.
Great.
So one of the things we need to do is figure out how can we get this out to the people who need to get it.
Okay.
So we need to brainstorm about that. I do have a list of all the people in Norwood who are currently receiving it, which I don't know how helpful that is. We need to know who's eligible and not receiving it. That's
Maybe,
really what we need to know.
maybe we could ask them how they found out about it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe reach out to some of those folks.
Just
Yeah, no, that's a
so
good
we
idea.
can use
Yeah,
them.
right.
And then
And
unfinished business
then,
request.
okay, unfinished business, yeah, we'll just, all right. We'll schedule another meeting when we got more time.
Okay.
Sweet, all right, thank you,
Thank you.
we're done. Thanks, Steve.